What is a sex act that you have done that you are ashamed of? Had girlfriend's little brother walk in while I was cooming in his sister's mouth. He waved at me because he didn't realize what was happening at first. All I could think to do was wave back while cooming. Cyril Figgis. Hello. High school GF decided to punch me in the face to make our third time having sex last longer. It ended right then as I went limp in sheer surprise. Stupid Cosmo. When I was a kid and first discovered that I could put things into my vagina and it felt good, I experimented a lot. One memorable time I shoved a bunch of Barbie clothes inside me. They obviously sopped up any natural lubricant I had and were incredibly hard to remove. I lost a dress up there for a day. I also used to masturbate by rolling myself up in my blankets like a burrito and humping a pillow. Ugh. Plenty of women hump pillows to get off. When I was a novice masturbator, I attempted to synthesize a vagina using household products, plastic wrap, a paper towel roll, some rubber gloves, and Vaseline. It didn't work. I posted this on a different account but it applies here. Had my then girlfriend over for sexy time. We were both a little kinky so we were going the downtown route, anal. When I was close to finishing, and in the heat of the moment, took the condom off and told her I was gonna CM in her butt. She's okay with this and we continue. Simultaneously, I CM in her butt. She falls off my bed face first with her head on the ground but legs still on the bed so her butt was the highest point of her body, and farts out all my CM from the sudden fall. It was both hilarious and horrifying. This made me laugh out loud. When asking about what she liked, I misheard gentle as genital. Genital hair pulling doesn't seem to be appreciated as foreplay. Ouch. I have a couple. Accidentally crapping a little because the guy I was dating at the time convinced me to have sex while I had the stomach bug. It wasn't anal or anything. He just thrust really hard and I guess I lost control. I was mortified and left immediately. I frequently let a guy CM on my face while I was sleeping. He would jack off and I would pretend to be asleep and then he would blow a load on my face. I enjoyed it, but we never spoke of it. Touching myself in the backseat of my parents' car when I first discovered how to make myself CM. Also while watching TV with friends. Still not sure how I pull those off, or why. Giving myself wedgies throughout the day because it turned me on. I would look up different ways to receive wedgies and give them to myself. Most of the time it would make me CM in public. Well, yesterday I stuck an ice cube up my butt because Reddit made me curious. Then when I reported back that it was nice, a bunch of others apparently tried it too with mixed results. Yeah, I'm not really ashamed of that. Okay, so I have two, and both are with the same ex-girlfriend. First one is she was always into domination, both being dominated and to dominate, but one day she said she had rape fantasies and that she wanted to go through with something like that. So one day she told me to give her this date rape drug and have my way with her. I felt really ashamed of the whole act but she loved it. The second one was she secretly drugged me, tied my hands and feet to the bed and started biting, scratching, just anything that she wanted, including biting my dong while she gave me a BJ. So pretty much I steer away from BSDM now, and there is a good reason she's an ex. My ex and I had a pretty nice BDSM relationship and always tried new things that we heard about or watched in P. Anyway, there was one video where a guy came in a glass and made her drink it all. I was not really into it but she thought it was kinda hot so I agreed to it. So when it came to O time, I started to CM in the glass that was just above her head by a few inches. I guess cooming and holding a glass was too difficult for me and I dropped the glass on her face. I just looked at the glass fall and some of the CM slide down her face. I never did that one again. You would be a terrible sperm donor. I once choked a girl until she passed out. It was only for a second, but I freaked the frick out. She thought it was fricking hot and asked me to do it again. Throw away in a private browsing window for this one. I once pretended to be my brother for my girlfriend, who had a massive crush on him, while we had sex, responding to her in character as him and saying its name, I love you and stuff when she asked who I was. Yeah, that crap was freaking weird. Not even once friend. Would have been out of there like a rat from a sinking ship. I've got 2. 1. After a night of heavy New Year's Eve drinking, I took a girl home which isn't really like me. Sexy time commences. She starts blowing me when I hear a funny sound and she stops. I ask her why she stopped, but she doesn't answer, just gets up and casually walks out of my room. I'm confused as duck at this point, so I go to get up and realize she puked all over me. It was chunky. 2. A couple weeks later. Not as bad as the first story. Unfortunately the same girl. Blowjob was successful this time, but when she swallowed she choked and spit it all back up onto my face. We stopped seeing each other after that. I never realized ducks were so confused. Throwaway because 10 years later it still makes me cringe. In high school I wrapped a fruit roll-up around my boyfriend's dong and blew him in an apartment stairway. I still can't walk through the snack aisle at the grocery store without thinking about dong. I have quite the shameful story here. 17 years old, just started school at this very religious college. There was absolutely no co-ed dorms. The opposite sex was only allowed in your room with the door wide open. Oh, and if you were sitting on the bed, both feet had to touch the ground. We were only allowed in the opposite sex's dorm between the hours of 5 to 10 on weekdays and 1 to 10 on weekends. Well, the first week of school I met this guy. We hit it off really well and would hang out on campus at 10 PM till about 3 AM. Second night we hung out, we were getting a little frisky, kissing and stuff. Few more nights of that and little virgin me decided to go all the way. So we sneak off into the only place on campus where no one can question you if the door was closed, the prayer room. This room was filled with Bible quotes, praises of Jesus, and religious pictures all over the wall. There was a cross and a huge Bible in the center of the room, with a little pew. That is where I lost my virginity and continued to sneak off to have sex for the rest of the semester. TLDR. Lost my virginity at a religious school in a prayer room. Haha, you aren't the only one. Don't trip. Had sex in church camp before. I also know others that have done the same. Something about it being so wrong makes it feel so right. Well, it's not really a weird sex act, but there was this one time when I had sex with a guy friend. There wasn't really anything going on. We just had sex a couple of times. We were at a party and we snuck into the bathroom. I think everyone at the party knew about it eventually and had sex. I was on top. When we were finished we turned on the lights and there was blood everywhere. It was my period. He was wearing a white t-shirt which was now blood-stained. There was blood all over the floor. It was just great. He was pretty cool about it though. In all honesty, I thought you were a man until the period happened. On our wedding night, my husband made me stick my finger up his butt, then smell it and taste it. He said just stick your finger in there like you're sticking it into a cherry pie. I was a virgin at the time. My fiance, M, and I, F, have been together for over a decade now. There is no shame or privacy between us. For instance, I have a small, silver bullet vibrator. It's wonderful. My fiance wanted to use it for himself, so I thought why not, and we went for it. And that is where I learned to never, ever put things up your anal passage when you have no way of getting them out. I was actually very proud of myself, as my fiance was hunched over like he was giving birth, and I braced to catch the new arrival, whilst we tried to get this tiny, still vibrating, bullet out of his ass. I ended up elbow deep, with the aid of an entire tube of lube, trying to grasp onto this little bugger, trying to avoid the bits of fecal matter that kept making their way in between my fingers and under my nails. We eventually managed to get it out. We were in the bathtub at that point. It got rather messy when I managed to get a hold of that little sucker and pull it out. 3 hours later and still vibrating. We haven't used it since. TLDR. I pulled a vibrator out of my fiance's ass with my bare hands. This is true love right here. I had this huge crush on a guy from work and he finally invited me over to party with him and his friends. I was a freshman in college at the point and was intimidated because he and his friends were already out of college. Anyways, I got way too drunk high, trying to be cool, and go to pass out in his room. When he came in later I woke up and put the moves on him, but he started to feel guilty about how fricked up I was. He stopped banging me and started fingering me instead. I then proceeded to start crying and freaking out for not using a condom on his fingers that I thought was his dong. I still can't look him in the eye. Had sex with 2 different guys a few hours apart, both outside in the grass. 2 different locations. Both guys were nervous and went soft. At least the moon looked pretty that night. This is weird because my first time having sex was drunk in the backyard with some girl who had sex with some other guy that night, which I didn't find out until later. I was also feeling pretty nervous. Okay, I was a freshman in college and I was kind of a sexual novice. I had been with a few girls and done all the basic things, but I was ready to step up my game and get into some kinky and freaky college level stuff. So I met, we'll call her Erica. She was a 5 feet 8 inches super thin redhead with perky tea and she was a cutter. We hung out a couple times and we hit it off pretty well and decided to go back to her apartment on campus to hang out. We start making out and get naked on our way to her bedroom. This is where things went wrong. She handcuffed me hands behind my back and my right leg to the footboard. This was about the time I realized, okay Josh, perhaps we've gotten a bit overzealous. Let's just play this out and everything will be awesome and fine. Everything was not awesome or fine. She proceeded to beat me with a riding crop. Hard, and when I protested she put a ball gag on me. A dirty ball gag. She bit me and scratched me. Hard, she started blowing me and then she climbed on top of me and started riding me. It wasn't like a normal slow and steady ride. She would get positioned and just pile drive down hard on my dong, then pull out slow and then really hard again. It kind of hurt. She started riding even harder and she came pretty hard while doing that and then she climbed off. She shoved me off into the floor and said, your turn. My lower body was held halfway on the bed because I was cuffed. My upper body was smashed up against the wall and she started jerking me off while smoking a cigarette. I started crying at one point. She made me CM on my face because of the angle, then she put out the cigarette on me and some of my CM. She uncuffed my foot, tossed the key at me and told me to get out. I cried there for a while before getting the key and getting my hands free and the ball gag out of my mouth. I left. A lot of my friends thought I got my butt kicked. I really liked it. Loved it. Best sex of my life, but I was too young and too freaked out to see her again. Throat fucked a girl hard. Her request. Till she puked. Kept going. Also at her request. It's just her throat orgasming. Oh, quite a few. Accidentally splodged in my own face because my GF didn't want it in her mouth. Gave myself a handy when my girlfriend was asleep next to me. Don't even know why, but my all-time funniest moment has to be when I was at hers and we were doing it doggy style. I'm going it at hard, and she's nearly satisfied when she screams, hurt me with your penis. This is immediately followed by a loud cough in the hallway outside her door. It turns out her stepdad had come upstairs. Well, I collapsed on the bed laughing for an age, and she put on a dressing gown and locked herself in the bathroom out of embarrassment. Gave myself a handy. I've never heard anyone describe it like that before. I was bored, so thought, you know what, it's rampant rabbit o'clock. Course. For some reason I thought I'd spice things up for myself as if I was a failing marriage all wrapped into one person. So I wrapped some of my belts around my ankles and thighs to keep the dildo in place. Once I had secured my legs in a bound position, I foolishly thought, frick it, let's go one step further. So I free myself from the binds of a belt and wrap my legs completely in plastic wrap until they are pretty much immobile. I wrapped this up to my boobs. I then duct taped my wrists shoddily together and attempted to gag myself. I was like a loud muffling caterpillar. Doesn't matter, had that. As if I was a failing marriage all wrapped into one person. That's freaking gold. I was silly drunk and had sex with a girl on her period, but it was dark and I didn't realize she was on it. I proceeded to lick her out, have sex with her etc. without a condom. At one point I was so drunk I went flaccid and protested the only way to get it back up was for her to suck my dong, which she reluctantly did. In the morning my face was covered in blood and there was a pretty bloody tampon on my floor and a lot of shame in that room. By the time I was out the toilet she'd gone. That's it, I'm out. In a failing relationship, I was trying everything on earth to make my then boyfriend interested in sex. We even tried food play. The minute the peanut butter and chocolate syrup got on him I realized that the relationship was over and that this had put the final nail in that coffin. I don't even know why I agreed, because I am the type of person who loves pulled pork BBQ but hates eating it because of the mess. It sucks because I love peanut butter but haven't been really able to eat it the same way since. This is kind of beautifully tragic. I was giving head to a guy with his dong pierced. It wouldn't have been a big deal, but his piercing was gauged. As I was deep throating his dong, his jewelry got stuck behind my tonsils. I freaked out and for a solid 5 seconds thought I was going to die. I eventually just jerked my head back, causing both his piercing and my tonsil to rip. He was okay but sore. I had to go to the doctor for my throat and explain why half of my tonsil was missing. 2 weeks later, I got my tonsils removed. Took a girl home one night after a heavy night out. Had sex, it was all good. Next morning she goes down on me, so I return the favor. Again, no problems. As I am down there, someone knocks on the front door. I live out of town, so if someone knocks they usually know me and it's kinda urgent. I was right. It was my neighbor who'd locked themselves out. Anyway, as I open the door, my neighbor is looking at me all confused and crap and asks what have I got round my mouth. Yep, the girl period all over my face. I opened the door looking like good old Johnny Redbeard. Let a guy I was completely not attracted to go down on me because he had a tongue ring and he claimed he was awesome at oral. He wasn't. I find that a lot of guys claim to be good at oral. I had sex with my high school girlfriend with lit candles and a freaking Norah Jones album playing. It was the gayest thing I've ever taken part in. Don't know why I didn't come. I put my dong in a penis-sized mason jar once. I started to get hard and saw a stress crack in the glass. I pulled out as fast as I could. Nothing broke. Thank God. I could have lost my dong, died. I almost puked after. Don't stick your dong in anything that can burn, cut, maim, freeze, or otherwise destroy your penis somehow, because it might, and you'd be sorry. I was drunk one night and thought it would be a good idea to grab my phone and record me and my girlfriend having sex doggy style without her knowing. I only remembered a few days later when I was showing her pictures I took earlier that night of us at the bar. You could make out what it was pretty easily by the thumbnail. She pretended to freak out and it was the scummiest I've ever felt. But it turns out it turned her on and we made another video that night. It's still the most ashamed I've ever felt about a sexual situation. It was so disrespectful to the person I care about the most. That was the only time I've ever felt like a genuine creep. You are a wonderful person. X and I were gong at it doggy style. Everything was awesome. So I start thrusting harder. Then I accidentally pull out too far, and when I thrust in, I jam my dong in her butt. She started crying, which I apparently found really hot, because I started cooming all over the bed while trying to console her. First time I had sex was freshman at college on a typical thirsty Thursday. I had just come back from playing drunk basketball and was just about to go to bed when my neighbor from across the hall invited me to her dorm to do shots. Never turning down free alcohol, I followed her back to her little dorm party. After chilling and drinking for about an hour, a hot drunk Irish girl stumbles in, winks at me, plops herself on my lap and proceeds to eat my face. Seizing the opportunity, I led her back to my room. Because my bed is lofted, I had to toss her onto the bed and I jumped up right after her. We got naked while heavily making out, so I started to mix it up by kissing her neck. As soon as I started, she whispered bite me. A bit freaked out, I went ahead and started nibbling on her neck. Harder, she moaned. I bit until I thought I was going to hurt her. A tad freaked out, I skipped her neck and started playing with her breasts. After teasing her with my mouth, she told me to bite my tea. So this time I bit, thinking I would go until it got too painful and she would tell me to stop. I got to the point where I felt like I was going to tear off her nipple, so I went ahead and traveled further south. When she told me to bite her clit, I gave up on pleasuring her and flipped her so she was on top. She went down to blow me and I was so glad that I was going to get my first BJ, until I realized she was scraping up and down my dong with her teeth. I cringed. It startled her, and she clamped on my dong. I finished the job, but I had teeth marks on my dong for a week. TLDR. Brought a hot drunk girl home to lose my virginity. She bit my dong. Jumped on a grenade for a friend. I'm not ashamed because she was unappealing. I'm ashamed because she reminded me that she was, in fact, a human being with feelings. Feelings that I hurt by treating her like, well, like a grenade. My entire view on women and sex in general changed since then. Joke's on me, I haven't gotten laid since. One of my ex-GFs was asleep next to me and gave myself a handy using her limp hand. I wasn't very proud afterwards. Also, I think she knew. That couldn't have felt better than just doing it yourself. Having sex with a guy just so he'd leave me alone. That, or having sex with a 30-year-old when I was 15. But I think he should be more ashamed of that. A friend and I, both males, had sex with a mother and daughter in the same room at the same time in Cabo, Mexico. My friend was with the daughter while I was with the mother. At first we were kind of surprised and excited. Then suddenly we were looking at each other mid-act like WTF is going on. Intentionally farted while my ex was blowing me. She bit my dong a little too hard and giggled, so I just let rip. She ran into the kitchen and dry heaved for about 5 minutes. She laughed for about 10 minutes and then we were back at it. I miss her sometimes. This thread is well past its prime, but I felt like adding my small stories to the mixing pot. My ex-girlfriend and I were getting pretty into it one night, but realized that we didn't have any condoms left. My solution? Saran wrap. I put clingy saran wrap all over my junk and proceeded to penetrate her lady bits. I must have not had it on too tight, because it slid off inside of her, and I spent a good 10 minutes trying to fish it out. Second story. Ex-girlfriend's old place had a pretty spacious living room, where we'd like to lay on the couch side by side and watch TV. Under the covers, we decided to touch each other a little. A little time goes by, and I'm just about balls deep in her butt, while still on the living room couch. Mom and Dad decided to make an early arrival. Dad goes to the kitchen, and Mom decided to pop a squat on the chair right next to us. Mind you, I'm still deep in her anus. She's talking and watching TV, and all I'm doing is slowly moving my hips and continuing to frick her butt. Don't ask me how, but we both managed to finish, and her mother never said a word. TL, DR, saran wrap condom, and anal family TV watching. Nail polish bottle in my vagina. The bad part was that the bottle had some dried polish in the screw top and somehow my lady juices mixed with it and it got all over me inside and outside my vagina. It burned like heck. I didn't know what to do, so I tried washing it with water. Didn't work. Then I tried nail polish remover. Holy freaking crap. Don't ever put that near your vagina. Ever. I just gave up and took a shower and it came off. Well, mostly. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.